Johannesburg, a city pulsing with diverse people and neighborhoods. Some areas have become cool and trendy hotspots that appeal to locals and tourists alike.
First visit to South Africa? Yes. Oh, wonderful.
And others are still waiting for a turnaround.
We've got over 80 of such type of buildings. I mean, what a disaster, what a disgrace. Oh, is the owner of the building coming? Okay.
Herman Mashaba is the mayor of Johannesburg, and he's on a mission to address the city's problem with so-called hijacked buildings, places where public safety and other basic services are nearly non-existent for some of the city's most vulnerable residents.
I have a dream, I have a mission to turn this city into a construction site, build high-rise accommodation for our people. I want to work with the private sector and the developers. Please give me proposals to build affordable accommodation for our people.
This is the one that's under construction, right? Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah, so this is a loft unit, so this will get a staircase coming in.
Africa Housing Company, AFCO, is just one of the developers who has stepped in to build affordable housing in the city centre.
So this is a 2-bedroom show flat.
AFCO's chairman has plans to create more affordable units like this, but there are barriers in his way. When did you buy this building?
About 7 years ago, and we've been trying ever since.
And it's been hijacked for 7 years?
For 7 years, yeah. It's basically organised crime, so you'd have a gang that would control a building like this. They would control the space, and they would rent the space out, and they would collect the rents.
And the smell is pretty unbearable already.
Yeah.
People often turn to unregulated housing like this because it's all they can afford. There's no ventilation, there's absolutely, how are people living in this?
Well,
and how much are they paying to stay here?
I would estimate here probably anything between 600 to 1,000 rand a month.
Look at these informal structures that have been built within the building itself. Each one of these houses an entire family. There's no running water, there are just cable wires running through for electricity. It's crazy. The mayor wants to transfer people living in units like these to more suitable homes, but it's hard to do that at a price low-income earners can afford.
I've got over 300,000 backlogs. If I can bring in money into the city, without any doubt, the prices will be, to some extent, be controlled. When I work with the private sector, I'm saying to you, please, I want the houses at this type of price levels.
A short walk away from a hijacked building, construction is at work to transform this corner of the city. But to get from this to this means private sector investment has to fill the financing gap.
Unfortunately, I sit in a government with 56 billion rands budget. Of that 56 billion, just under 9 billion on capex. But at the same time, I'm sitting with a 10-year, 170 billion backlog.
I think a lot of investment is required, but I don't think it's an inordinate amount of money that can be sucked into the CBD. I think personally this is the right time, because a lot of the sectors, certainly in the listed sector, a lot of the property sectors are going through very tough times, and they're looking for alternative places to put their money. The CBD, if investor confidence could return, could be just that place.
AFCO currently has 3 large projects in the city, which they say are worth around $45 million.
We typically have to buy the buildings cheap, but we don't mind if they run down, because we're going to gut them back to their concrete shell and start over again.
The company says while they're building low-income housing, these units are not specifically for occupants of the hijacked buildings. That's because there are currently no government incentives that would reduce rents to affordable levels for these residents. And while AFCO is making money, it's still a margins game for the developer.
Typical conversion project today, we'd be lucky to achieve an 11% return. Prime's 10.5. So typically in the first few years, you actually are cross-subsidising that building, cash flow-wise, because there isn't enough return in it.
But it's enough to keep developers like Rennie Plitt working on the city's transformation. And the mayor hopes that will get him closer to accomplishing his mission.